This week, Northwest Indiana became a part of the phenomenon known as TED. TED is a global set of conferences where experts share ideas worth spreading. Those ideas are often spread via the internet through the popular TED Talks. The local incarnation of TED, known as TEDx, is designed to help communities, organizations, and individuals spark conversation and connection through TED-like experiences. The area's first TED satellite conference, TEDx County Line Road, took place this week at Hobart's County Line Orchard. A volunteer group of young professionals, community leaders, and stakeholders from Lake and Porter County organized the half-day event, featuring speakers like LaPorte Mayor Blair Milo and economist Brian Westbury. Those attending were urged to find the wow factor in an area, neighborhood, or community, and to use that unique regional characteristic to keep people coming to and staying in Northwest Indiana. One of the organizers, TEDx curator Matt Sultanovitz, says TEDx stood out in the group's mind as a way to provide a forum for critical thinking about the region's future.
A great way to get both sides of the counties, Lake and Porter, kind of together at one event, one way of thinking, a new way of thinking, open everyone's minds that we can achieve something. We can achieve moving the needle forward in Northwest Indiana.
The taped conference will be made available online. Organizers are hoping to have another TEDx event in Northwest Indiana sometime next year. It's been nearly a month since the bodies of 6 women were found discarded and forgotten in empty homes around Gary on October 17th. The alleged crime by 43-year-old Darren Van lit an international spotlight on the city's problem of blight. Gary Hall city officials say they're now focused on repurposing abandoned residential structures by using incentives like the Dollar Home program to reinvest in the region.
We continue to look through abandoned buildings. We are continuing to also, and this is from the administration standpoint, to really step back and look at our abandoned buildings plan. People know that we have an ongoing process that is directed at large, small buildings, but we are also looking at suggestions that perhaps we ask local construction companies to do some demolition on a pro bono basis.
The mayor says she's working to convene a roundtable with nonprofits and community organizers about the city's 8,000 blighted buildings. Darren Van is scheduled to be back in court on January 9th, 2015. We're already feeling the cold and seeing snowflakes in the air, and now we'll be able to hear the familiar sounds of ringing bells. The Salvation Army Lake County Corps kicked off its annual Red Kettle Christmas campaign this week. The kickoff ceremony was held at the Strachan Van Til in Sherrillville on Thursday. Attendees were treated to hot cocoa, performances by the Salvation Army East Chicago Youth Band, the Protzman Elementary School Choir, and of course the ringing of bells. The Salvation Army is hoping this year's campaign will raise about $750,000 for Lake County alone. The money will be used to fund year-round programs and give help to local residents in need. The Red Kettle Drive raises about 70% of the Salvation Army Lake County Corps yearly funds. The Indiana State Police Force is warning motorists that, as the holidays approach, it will be stepping up efforts to crack down on impaired drivers and seatbelt violations. The Safe Family Travel Program is putting more officers on streets and highways, and we'll see more sobriety checkpoints throughout the Thanksgiving driving season, which runs through the end of November. ISP spokesperson Lieutenant Tony Casto says that Thanksgiving is one of the busiest travel seasons of the year and that the enhanced police presence will help ensure a safe holiday for all concerned. Police are reminding Hoosiers to buckle up for safety. If you see an obviously impaired driver, get a description of the vehicle, its location, the direction in which it's traveling, and call 911. We're still a little over a month away from the official start of winter, but the winter cold has begun to arrive already. The Northern Indiana Public Service Company, or NIPSCO, is partnering with state agencies and other organizations to help Hoosiers pay their heating bills. Enrollment in federal low-income energy assistance programs is already underway, and customers worried about their ability to make ends meet this winter can contact NIPSCO to find out about residential discount and hardship programs. Eligibility for any of the energy assistance programs is based on income and family size. The company says it's ready to help consumers connect with programs best suited to their needs. To find out more about energy assistance availability, customers can contact NIPSCO at 1-800-4NIPSCO. November has already been a month of big changes. The changing weather, the changing political climate after midterm elections, and for many Hoosiers, it's also a time to investigate changing health care options. Hillary Powell talked to Gary officials, making sure residents are informed about their health care options.
Gary City Hall officials have made it their priority to make residents' health coverage their business. Find out why Northwest Indiana officials are mobilizing to make sure residents know about resources to help them prepare to be safe and healthy in the new year.
I know, our patients love this clinic.
'Tis the season to shop coverage.
What we are learning is that the vast majority of uninsured do not know about this important date coming up or this important window of opportunity for them. So we are reaching out in every way we can.
Department of Health and Human Services Region 5 Director Kathleen Falk was in Gary this week reminding residents they have 3 months to get health insurance for next year.
Many for the first time in their lives. But we still have more people to reach, and this open enrollment period begins on November 15th and ends 3 months later.
She says 90% of those without insurance don't know about the upcoming chances to qualify. To help, Gary City Hall will host registration workshops with federally funded health navigators. Falk says it's a vital move since residents have more coverage options to help the estimated more than 500,000 uninsured in the state as of last year.
They're going to see in Indiana this year they have even more providers to choose from. There are more than twice the number of providers. So that's good for us consumers. We'll have more choice, and more choice means more affordable prices.
She says Governor Mike Pence's administration is negotiating with HHS on using the Healthy Indiana plan to expand coverage to low-income Hoosiers, which Obamacare would have fully covered.
Governor Pence's administration has made an alternative proposal to the federal government, which is being reviewed as we speak. The Affordable Care Act's great offer for 100% funding families and individuals that are at the federal poverty level. That would be the fastest, simplest, quickest way to get those people coverage.
In nearby Maryville, officials at the American Red Cross are instead shrinking operating costs in hopes of helping more residents, they say. Effective November 1st, the group's Northwest Indiana district consolidated 5 counties into one chapter.
It is so important to bring those resources together so that we can better serve the community.
Officials with this consolidation say donor dollars that went to service delivery can now go to the actual services themselves.
You shouldn't lose the services, basically, and that's not what we intend to do. The American Red Cross is still available to those clients and to those residents of the areas that we cover. It's just that physically the building may not be serviced on a daily basis, but the services are still available to the residents.
She says the organization's strength is its volunteers and that their resources still meet the requirements of the state disaster emergency plan.
We do have those impending snows, of course, that happen in those areas that are harder hit, and that could be in the counties of Porter and LaPorte. If I-65 is shut down and cots and blankets are needed in strategically set places, then we can provide that services to the community. So not only do we have the volunteers that are in Porter and LaPorte counties that have already been servicing the community, but then we can bring in the strength also from the Maryville chapter. It makes it better for us because strategically we can bring those resources together to better service the communities.
More information about the Affordable Care Act can be found by calling 1-800-318-2596, and anyone who wants to learn about volunteering with the Red Cross can visit redcross.org. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, is the 3rd leading cause of death worldwide. Medications are the mainstay of COPD management. A new study examined 2 different regimens and how these medications might impact older people who have COPD. Catherine Dolph explains in this week's JAMA report.
Patients with COPD not only have a difficult time breathing, but if the disease is not managed with effective medications, there can be other health problems.
It's not a disease that just affects their lungs, it affects their body. They can end up losing a lot of weight and become very weak. They can get osteoporosis and other types of diseases.
Dr. Andrea Gershon from the Sunnybrook Health Sciences Center and co-authors studied data from all across Ontario, Canada, involving patients 66 and older with COPD. Patients were newly introduced to 2 medication regimens. The 2 regimens were then compared to find out which was more effective at preventing COPD-related hospitalizations and death. The patients were followed until they were hospitalized, died, or until the end of the 7-year study period.
The first group we looked at was people who were on a long-acting beta agonist, or we call them LABAs for short. And we compared them to people who started a long-acting beta agonist and inhaled corticosteroid.
LABAs help open the narrowed airways, and inhaled corticosteroids work to decrease inflammation in those airways.
If they're on the combination therapy as opposed to the one medication alone, they're actually going to do better. They're actually going to stay out of hospital, and they're actually going to live longer.
The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
There were no increase in side effects, specifically pneumonia and osteoporosis, that we observed.
The study also included people who had a diagnosis of both asthma and COPD.
The incremental benefit of the combination therapy over the LABA alone seemed greater in people with a co-diagnosis of asthma than without asthma.
The combination therapy was also more effective when patients were not already taking a long-acting anticholinergic, another very commonly used COPD medication.
I think even as physicians, we prefer that patients be on less medication. But in this situation, we have an opportunity for patients to have a discussion with their doctors and to determine what's best for them.
Catherine Dolph, The JAMA Report.
It's a word that means equal treatment for all users online, and the nation's top leader voiced his opinion this week about why he thinks it's worth protecting. Steve Walsh speaks with a region information system expert to find out why.
It's a wonky topic with real-world implications. This week, the president came out with his plan for how the FCC should handle net neutrality. To talk about it and what it means for those of us who spend a lot of time on the internet, we have Dr. Rajan Kini, Professor of Management and Information Systems at Indiana University Northwest. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Stu. Thanks for inviting me.
All right, so this is an important topic, but I'm going to have to ask you to have pity on those of us who do not have advanced degrees in information technology. What is net neutrality, and why should I be concerned if we don't have it?
Well, the key thing about net neutrality is that internet should be democratized to everyone. That is, everyone who goes on the internet should have the same level of access, whether the content is coming from a small mom and pop type of shop or content is coming from Netflix or Google or any content provider. So net should be, or the internet should be neutral. That means whether your data comes in or somebody's small catalog somebody wants to buy comes in on the internet, nobody should give a priority to anybody's traffic. That was the key with which internet was started, and we funded that by the Department of Defense in 1960s, and then they opened it for the commerce. That was the intention with which it was opened.
Why do I care if Netflix is paying to go faster than me?
Very good question. As you can see, the world is changing. Whether it is a K-12 or college education or a small mom and pop type of shop using Facebook or the internet, they want to promote their business. They want to give a catalog. Now imagine a small business somewhere in the wilderness in the US wants to be on the internet and wants to sell their products. Now their packet of data, internet works on small pieces of data coming on the big pipe. Their packet of data, because they can't afford to pay Comcast or the Verizons or the AT&T, they will slow it down to give priority to somebody who wants to watch a Netflix movie, and they give priority to that stream, and these guys will be slowed down, and people will be wondering, why should I shop over there? I never could get their site. That was the intention with which it should be neutral. If I come first on this highway, I should get the first chance.
All right, so how do you solve this? And if this is so important, why are we only now? I mean, I've heard about this issue for a while. I've only heard about the president talking about this since Monday. If this is so important, why is he just chiming in now? And what is the solution here?
This is the, to give a little bit of history, this net neutrality came out of the thinking that this should be a common utility, just like telephone. When I make a telephone call, nobody is throttling my speed. Whether the call is coming from President Obama or somebody else, when it comes through, it is given the same level of priority as anybody else. Now, what happened was, some time ago, about 20 years ago, the FCC categorized with the recommendation from a large number of people that this should not be, or this cannot be, a common utility, so that they can play with the innovations that can be supported. So when
it hasn't been regulated like you would regulate like landline telephones.
Exactly.
At least up until this point.
Exactly.
So when are we going to know who's going to win in this argument?
Well, this is the key. That's the issue President Obama weighed in because, as you know, the politics of this, the Republican Congress and Senate will come January 1.
So right now we're going to this lame duck session of Congress.
Yes.
Right now Democrats have more votes. Come January, they'll have fewer votes.
Fewer votes.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to have to leave it. We have Dr. Rajan Keeney, who is the Professor of Management and Information Systems at Indiana University Northwest. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Stu.
This week, the nation honors those who gave for their country. Originally called Armistice Day, commemorating the cessation of fighting during World War I, Veterans Day honors American servicemen and women for their sacrifice. Lakeshore photographer Amanda Foresta captured the experiences of local veterans and spoke with residents about the impact of their service.
Indiana has 6.2 million people. We have 500,000 veterans in our state. And when most folks look at fighting for liberty and freedom and patriotism, there are very few states that can equate or even understand the kind of commitment we've made as Hoosiers. And that's just a lifelong commitment. It's gone from generation to generation. It's gone from 3 and 4 members in a family serving, from great-grandfather to grandfather to man and wife, man and woman. And I think that's something to be proud of.
Congresswoman Jackie Walorski says she has prioritized improving health care at VA hospitals, saying she wants to make sure the services promised to area veterans are delivered by the government. Services made easier with the help of Nick Gutwein's company Brawnability in Winnemac, which makes medical equipment like wheelchairs and lifts to help veterans continue to enjoy the freedoms they fought for.
The products that we make are particularly important to veterans who have been wounded and maybe who have lost limbs or had spinal cord injuries and are unable to get around in a car or a vehicle, and we make products for them that allow them to move from A to B and live life like everyone should be able to live, with all the freedoms that they've fought for us.
All of us need to cherish the sacrifice of those who are in uniform today and those who served before, whether they lost their lives, whether they suffered injury, or whether hopefully they came back whole in mind and body. Because as I tell people, the most precious gift any of us have been given is the time of our life.
He says we can show our gratitude every day, not just on Veterans Day, and tell a veteran, thank you. For Lakeshore Report, I'm Amanda Foresta.
A local organization is bringing a decades-old tradition back to life with its production of an old-fashioned radio play. John Kane has more in this week's Eye on the Arts.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Dr. Meg Demakis, Executive Director of Frontline Folk Foundation. Did I say that right?
Family Folklore Foundation.
Oh, whatever. Meg, welcome. I'm just teasing you. Well, I mean, I didn't get it right, did I? I'm a terrible person. Family Folklore Foundation. And you've been a prolific writer of children's books, all kinds of creative stuff. You're a very creative person.
And this
you can answer now.
This time I've written a play called Butterbird Christmas, and I thought it'd be easier to have a radio play than an actual play because I wouldn't have to worry about stage direction and costuming and
yeah, everybody just stands at a microphone more or less.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And you're going to put this on where?
In Miller at the Marshall J. Gardner Center for the Arts, which is 540 South Lake Street in Miller, Indiana, December 7th.
Caddy corner from Miller Bakery Cafe.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's in the heart of the Miller Arts and Creative District. And we're going to be presenting it Sunday, the first Sunday in December, December 7th. The doors open at 3. There's going to be beverages and bake sale, and the play starts at 4. And
so you've done a lot of children's literature. This is not a children's play necessarily.
It's a play that takes place in the 50s about a second grader who's very much like me at the time, and but it's all ages. In fact, our voice actors, our actors range in age from about 6 to 70-ish.
So a wide range.
A wide range, and it's multicultural. We have all ethnicities.
And how many people are in the cast?
A dozen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I use social media and flyers door to door, and then we had a marquee in which we advertised that we were auditioning, and people actually showed up.
Oh, that's fun. All right, very briefly, can you give us kind of a hint about the plot?
Well, our family of 7 was uprooted from one of the first suburbs in America. It's called Woodmar. And we went to Cincinnati, and our parents, of course, didn't tell us anything. We didn't know that we were going anywhere. And then once we were there, we started to realize Santa didn't know that we had left. And so that's kind of going on in the play. But,
Well, thank you for being here to tell us about it.
Yes.
And good luck.
Oh,
and
thank you.
you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
If you're a fan of good old-fashioned board game fun, then we've got the group for you. We got to play around with the Northwest Indiana Board Gamers Association on this week's Jump in the Lake.
Brian, tell me a little bit about Northwest Indiana Board Gamers, just because, I frankly had never heard of it, but I think it's a really cool kind of idea. But how did you come up with it?
Well, actually, we started about 3 years ago. In fact, in May, we're going to celebrate our anniversary. We have a big Saturday event going on. And there's a board game site that we all pretty much go on called Board Game Geek. And Scott, who works here, is our host all the time, was looking for some people to put a call out on it. And I actually have a roommate. I was visiting him for the weekend, and he said, hey, I saw that there's a game group starting up in your area. So I couldn't make it that day because I was actually at his house, and got a hold of Scott, and we picked a Monday night to meet up here. So there's just 3 of us that first night, and just played some games, and through Facebook and through Board Game Geek, just started inviting people and asking people, and we grew pretty much every single day. So the next week we had 4, the next week we had 5, and now we have, 30 people attend on average, and yeah, I think our Facebook group has over 170, something like that, 180 people now.
So do you all consider yourself board game geeks? And what is the criteria for becoming a board game geek?
His name is Suro.
Okay.
It's called The Way of the Path.
Okay.
So the goal is to survive as long as possible.
Okay.
So that's all we do. You have 3 tiles, you pick one, draw one after you're done, and try not to lose.
All right.
So we'll let you go, John. I get to go first? Okay. You always play the tile right in front of where your piece is at, and move your piece along that way.
Okay.
And if you connect up with somebody else, then they will follow the path as well. All right, so now what'll happen when you guys come, you're going to put a piece in there on your turn, and it's going to move him as well. So you don't want to try to crash into each other.
Oh, that would be bad.
All right, so you're not going to want to do that because you're going to crash into each other.
Yes. I'm sorry. I thought I was on a different path. Oh.
If you'd like to see more of our segment on the Northwest Indiana Board Gamers Association, go to our website, lakeshorepublicmedia.org, and you can find expanded segments of a lot of our stories out there.
That's right, and while you're on our website, you can also reach out to us by email at tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org with thoughts, questions, concerns, story ideas, pitches. You can also reach us on Twitter at Lakeshore Report and on Facebook at that same title, Lakeshore Report.
Yeah, because we always want to hear from our viewers. We like to hear what you're thinking, and any story ideas, send them on over. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you next time on Lakeshore Report.